What up, Space Fam? Goes in here for AnimeUproar, and today we're going to be talking about every type of quirk in My Hero Academia. If you didn't know, all quirks can be placed into specific categories, and we are going to be discussing those fascinating categories today. If you enjoy seeing MHA videos on this channel and want to see more, make sure the United States have smashed that like button and share this video with a friend, because that really helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't, be sure to subscribe, and this is crucial, hit that notification bell or else you won't know when future videos come out. For more MHA content and important updates about the new season, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at AnimeUproar. There will be manga spoilers in this video, so if that bothers you, you've been warned. Now without further ado, let's jump into it. Let's recap some basics about quirks before we start getting fancy. As we know, quirks are superpowers in the My Hero Academia world. Quirks appeared one day in the form of a glowing baby, and before you knew it, around 80% of the world's population possessed a quirk. It's been theorized that quirks were actually the result of a virus carried by mice. Wow, if only our own world was that convenient. Mice carrying viruses are nowhere near as fun in our world. Also, we are told that quirks will just get stronger and stronger with subsequent generations. With each new generation, quirks blend and evolve, and there will come a day when these complex, overpowered quirks will be impossible for individuals to control. This specific theory is called the quirk singularity doomsday theory. Sometimes kids will manifest a quirk from one of the parents or a composite quirk like Todoroki's that combines the father's quirk with the mother's quirk. More rarely, a quirk will manifest that is not related to the child's genetic lineage. So we might describe this as a rare mutation, and Aries' rewind quirk and Shigaraki's decay quirk are examples of this. Okay, now let's look at the three main types of quirk categories and then some other interesting but less official categories. The three main types are known as emitter, transformation, and mutant. An emitter type quirk, also known as an activation type quirk, allows its user to activate and release substances like Todoroki with fire and ice, or certain effects like Aizawa with erasure. The emitter type user's body doesn't transform in any significant way, and their powers have to be activated, although the activation is not always conscious. In other words, with emitter types, their quirks are not always visible, in contrast to mutant types, which we'll get to later. Even people who look like mutants, aka they don't look like normal humans, can have emitter type quirks rather than mutant type quirks. For example, Mina looks like a pink alien, Koji has a strangely shaped head, and Fumikage looks like Chicken Batman. They all seem to have permanent quirks that make them look different. But they're actually all emitter types, and their physical appearances really don't have anything to do with their actual quirks. How can we explain this? Well, at some point, their ancestors developed mutant type quirks that made them look different from humans, and these physical characteristics were passed down even though they were no longer directly related to the descendant's specific quirk. Thus, Mina's real quirk is acid, not looking like a pink alien, and Fumikage's is dark shadow, not looking like Chicken Batman. Some more examples of emitter type quirks include Bakugo's explosion and Kaminari's electrification. One produces explosions and the other produces electricity. Other emitter type quirks can produce effects rather than substances, like Aizawa produces an effect that can suppress emitter and transformation type quirks. One for All is also considered an emitter type quirk. When you look at All Might, it could seem like a transformation type quirk at first, but his transformation from skinny to muscular doesn't seem to be a feature of the quirk. For instance, Deku doesn't suddenly become puffed up when he uses it. The quirk initially allows Deku to produce an effect that enhances his physical abilities, although there's more to it and we'll get to that later. Next, let's look at transformation type quirks. As the name suggests, these quirks allow their users to transform their otherwise normal looking body. Sometimes the quirk enhances the existing body parts like Kirishima with his hardening ability, and sometimes the quirk adds new features to the body, like the quick tool arms, which lets the chainsaw Nomu produce new limbs with chainsaws at the ends of them, and he can retract them too. Usually, transformation quirks only affect the user, but there is an interesting exception. The student from Shiketsu High School, called Seiji Shishikura, can use his meatball quirk to transform his own body as well as the bodies of other people. He can turn others into balls of flesh. Transformation type quirks are also known as hybrid quirks because they seem to combine the need to be activated with the mutant shaped appearance of mutant type quirks. Unlike mutant quirks though, these powerful transformation type quirks lead to overexertion in the user, and eventually the user gets to the point where they can no longer maintain their transformation. We've seen this with Kirishima and Tetsu, who specifically needs to consume enough iron to maintain his steel form. The really cool ninja hero Edgeshot has a transformation type quirk Folda Body. He has trained in refined this quirk to such an extent that he is able to transform his body faster than the speed of sound. Some other notable transformation quirk users are Dragoon Hero Ryukyu with her Dragon quirk, Mount Lady with her Gigantification quirk, Tamaki with his Manifest quirk, Mirio with his Permeation quirk, Himiko Toga with her Transform quirk, and Big Sis Kendo with her Big Fist quirk. As previously mentioned, the last of the official 3 quirk categories is called Mutant. Mutant quirks are associated with the user's physical mutations. These quirks are always visible and as a result always active in a sense. Because mutant quirks don't need to be activated, Aizawa's Erasure quirk will not erase appendages that are associated with mutant type quirks. For example, Mezo Shoji's mutant type quirk Dupli Arms gives him tentacles alongside his arms. These tentacles can be made to replicate other body parts like ears or eyes. Although Aizawa in theory could stop the replication of other body parts, he cannot make the tentacles themselves disappear because they are ever present even when Shoji's resting. Some other mutant type quirks include Ida's Engine quirk, Ojiro's Tail quirk, Jiro's Earphone Jack quirk, and Ibara Shiozaki's Vines quirk. The effects of these quirks can be similar to that of emitter type quirks. For instance, Jiro's quirk can release sound to shatter the ground around her or hurt her opponents, but the difference is that the physical manifestation of her Earphone Jack quirk can't be turned off, so to speak. A lot of people have asked what would happen if Aizawa used his Erasure quirk on Toru Hagakure's mutant type quirk called Invisibility. Would she suddenly become visible? In my view, it is unlikely that Aizawa could cancel out the effect because invisibility appears to be always active, even when Toru is supposed to be asleep or unconscious. Just like Mezo Shoji's tentacles, the invisibility appears to be a physical manifestation of her quirk that cannot be turned off. An interesting example of a mutant type quirk is Principal Nezu's High Spec quirk. Nezu is a rare case where a quirk manifested in an animal. He's a mutated animal whose quirk granted him superior intelligence and allows him to live in human society. Those are the 3 official quirk categories, and pretty much all quirks can be placed into one of the 3 categories. However, we can also categorize quirks in some different ways. For instance, there are accumulation type quirks. These quirks require the accumulation of something to be activated. Examples are Aries' Rewind quirk, Fat Gum's Fat Absorption quirk, and Deku's One For All quirk. For Fat Gum, if he absorbs the force behind enemy attacks, he can release the accumulated force back in the form of one powerful punch. One For All stockpiles powers and accumulates quirks from its previous users. The user can focus that stockpiled power in one body part or spread it out evenly in order to achieve superhuman power and speed. As a result, every subsequent user gets stronger and stronger. Since it allows the user to eventually use all of the quirks of past users, we could also include One For All in an interesting category of quirks that allow their users to use multiple quirks. Technically, these quirks become a part of the One For All quirk, so it's still one overarching quirk. But nonetheless, in effect, it allows Deku to use what appear to be unrelated quirks. Todoroki's Half Cold Half Hot quirk is like this too, since his one quirk allows him to use fire quirk powers and ice quirk powers. Similarly, Neito Monoma's Copy quirk allows him to copy and use multiple quirks, although he cannot use them simultaneously. He has to switch back and forth for the time being. There are more characters whose quirks could be included in this category, such as Himiko Toga, since her quirks awakened. Speaking of awakened quirks, that could also be a category we use. It is possible when quirk users are pushed to extreme life and death situations that their quirks can undergo an evolution. This has been called a quirk awakening. In Toga's case, her quirk used to let her physically transform into people if she consumed their blood. However, since the quirk awakened, she can now use those people's quirks too. Similarly, during his fight against Redestro, Shigaraki's quirk underwent an awakening. Shigaraki blew past the previous limits of his decay quirk and pretty much destroyed an entire city. As if the League of Villains weren't OP enough, Twice also appears to have undergone an awakening. In order to save Toga, he blows past his limits. Before, he was limited to 2 duplicates of things at a time, and he wouldn't clone himself because of his mental instability. However, he broke past this limit and used a move called Infinite Doubles, where he creates clones of himself and the clones create clones, and so on and so on. As the attack's name suggests, he could in theory create infinite doubles and it's been said that Twice's quirk now has the potential to take down entire countries. Arguably, Izuku began the awakening process when he unlocked the new quirk Black Whip, but he still has plenty more quirks from past One For All users to awaken. And that is it for today's video. We have discussed the official 3 categories and some specific and fascinating unofficial categories of quirks that I thought would be fun to look at. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to United States of smash that like button and share this video with a friend. If you haven't, be sure to subscribe, and this is crucial, hit that notification bell because you won't know when future videos come out if you don't. For more MHA content and important updates on the new seasons, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at AnimeUproar. A special thank you goes out to our patrons over on Patreon who help us survive YouTube issues and who help make videos like this one possible. I especially want to thank our Pro Hero tier patrons, the one and only Gilgamesh, Nothing But a Fan, Jason Wilson, King Zeldris, $50 Beat, Anatoly Kazatsky, Alpha Dio, Angel Cruz, and Team Sparky65. And are the 1-tier patrons, the ones who stand atop all clans: Steven Ingrata, Alola Natem, Matty Mac 239, Makoto Kun, The World, Steelers, Tyson Quirino, and the school bus. Thank you all so much. If you enjoy our work, you can support more of it by going over to patreon.com/AnimeUproar and becoming a patron today for as little as $1. If you do so, you'll get your name featured in future videos alongside these amazing people right here, and you'll even get access to our private patron-only Discord where we talk about anime, life, and of course, dank memes. So check out patreon.com/AnimeUproar, link in the description if you're interested. You can also now join the YouTube channel and support more content that way if you prefer. Whichever way you choose to support us, you can get the same great benefits. Until next time, see you, Space Cowboy.